Okay, so a common question that we often get asked is why didn't I get stitches after my wisdom teeth were removed? And the short answer to that is that you probably didn't need them. I mean, more often than not, if you have a fully erupted wisdom tooth, which means that it's not impacted, you often do not need to get any stitches because there actually isn't anything to stitch. Um, I mean, usually you would need stitches if your dentist has to make an incision into the gums, which would mean, they take a scalpel and they literally make an incision. In those cases, you would need stitches because if you can kind of see, I guess as like an example, we could kind of take this tissue teddy bear, right? Imagine there was no opening there, right? But if your dentist makes like a cut into the gums, right? Then there will be an opening, and then you can kind of stitch this back together, which I can kind of show you there. But you can actually stitch this back together. Right? And then you would just knot this together, and then there you have it. Right? So if your dentist has to make a cut, you can put a stitch back in, but if they don't make an incision with a scalpel, then there's really nothing to stitch. And I guess a good way to kind of explain that would be like imagine like the sleeve of your shirt, right? So you have a sleeve of your shirt, and then you have like a tooth in there, right? So like the gums kind of hug around the tooth, but when you take the tooth out without needing to make a cut, there's actually nothing to really stitch. I mean, you could put a stitch into here, but it won't close because there's no excess gums there, right? This is different from how if you had like a surface like this and then you make a cut and it's open, right? But then you can pull the pieces of the tissue back together. But in the case of a wisdom tooth, you can even look in your mouth. There's the gums aren't flappy and you don't have excess gums there for you to kind of to stitch over. It kind of just remains open like that because the bone is underneath there, so you can't really pull it together. I mean, if you put a stitch in here, it will still kind of stay open like that. So there doesn't it doesn't really make sense to put a stitch in there, and that's kind of the reason why. So I mean, but just to recap, you probably didn't get stitches for wisdom teeth if your tooth was fully erupted. But if it was impacted, I mean, your dentist would most likely have needed to make an incision to kind of peel the gums apart so you can reveal the tooth so they could take it out. And in those cases, you would need stitches. So I guess it really comes down to whether or not how impacted your wisdom tooth was. If it was very impacted, it would most likely need an incision, and then it would also need sutures afterwards. But if the tooth was fully erupted, you wouldn't need any stitches at all. And that's about it.